Welcome to my beginning watercolor tip number 17, avoiding tangents. This beginning tip is less about watercolor and more about composition and design, and it applies no matter what medium you're working in. When I'm speaking of tangents, I'm primarily talking about the relationship of edges and when they come together or intersect. I'm going to review some photographs that I've taken for reference, and I'm going to point out some tangents that occur in those photographs, and then I'm going to discuss how you would improve that in your composition for your painting. In this first example, I'm going to show where 4 tangents occur in this photograph. The first one, if you can follow my cursor here, is at the top of this building on the roof. That top corner, where that corner and the tree intersect, forms a tangent. The second one is at the bottom of that roof line where it intersects with that tree. That's another tangent. Then the apex of that bush and tree is a tangent, and this tree along the edge of the photograph there is a tangent. So to begin with, I'm going to draw this roof line, and I'm going to indicate this tree coming down, and you can see that there's an intersection right on the corner of that barn, and that's an undesirable tangent. You don't want an intersection to occur right on the point or an apex of a shape like that. So how would you fix that? One of the easiest ways in this particular painting, when you're drawing it, would be to shift the tree just to the left or to the right, and now you've eliminated the tangent. You can see the corner of the barn, and you have the tree, and you don't have the bothersome intersection. Another example of a tangent exists at the bottom of this roof line, where this corner intersects with the tree. If you were to lay out your composition and reproduce this in your painting, it would be a bad composition. You don't want a point of a shape like that to end into the edge of another shape. And this is another example where a good solution would be, when you did your drawing, would be to take that tree and move it off the edge of the roof line. So in this instance, I'm going to give an example where move that tree to the right, and now you have you've eliminated that tangent, and you've created a more interesting shape between the barn, between the building and the tree. So you would have a light shape that's a more interesting shape, but you've eliminated the tangent there. And that's a more desirable layout to have in your composition than having that corner touching the tree. This next example is where this pine tree and this tree intersect. You have this tree hitting right at the point of the apex and splitting it right down the middle. And that's a bad tangent. It's a bad intersection, and that's something you want to avoid in your composition. So it's a fairly easy one to correct. When you do your drawing, all you have to do is shift the pine tree a little bit one way or the other, and now you're not splitting it right through the apex of the shape. And you could have gone the other way too, but you'd have to be careful that you didn't create another tangent on the other side with your barn. But that's a simple solution to fix that tangent. This next one might be a little harder to see, but right on the right side of this photograph there's a tree, and you can see where my cursor is. That's the bottom of it, and that tree is split in the middle by the edge of the photograph. You wouldn't want to recreate that in your painting. That's a bad tangent. Again, it's split in a shape halfway going off the page. A good solution, as I've drawn my line, would be to crop it and just eliminate that tree and that relationship, and then going this direction would be your whole composition, and that would be the edge. So that would be one way to fix it. Another way to correct this would be a similar approach to what I did in the other examples, where you take that tree, and I'm going to change my color of my cursor here and my paintbrush, and you would move it to the left and bring it in your composition more so that you can see both edges of the tree and it's not cut off by the edge of the paper, and you see there'd be a little light there. So that would be another way to fix this composition. But you don't want that tree being split by the edge of the paper. Here's another example, and I'm going to show one tangent here. You can see that there's two trees kind of intersecting there, and you follow the edge of the one tree down, it also forms a tangent with the edge of that structure. So you have a bad relationship there, and you also have a bad relationship here at the top where you lose the edge of the tree behind it and you don't really know what's going on. It really parallels the other one. So you really have two bad tangents that you'd want to avoid in your composition. This was actually a photograph I used for a beginning watercolor tip. Use it as reference for that limited palette painting. And one of the solutions here is to simply eliminate the one tree. So I'm going to get a little bit of green color here, and I'm going to take that back tree out, change my color again and make that sky. So by eliminating that tree, I've eliminated both undesirable relationships with the edges that were created by that other tree. So now I have the single tree going up, and then I don't have a undesirable relationship with the edge of the building either. This is the painting I did for my limited palette beginning watercolor tip, and you can see how I dealt with that tree. I've just eliminated it when I painted that, and I don't have any tangent there. So I improved my composition by altering what I was seeing in the photograph. In this last example, there's three shapes that have a top edge that are all in a straight line, and that's still referred to as a tangent. So you have two groupings of trees that form shapes, and then you have a distant landmass that forms a shape, and the top edges are all pretty much a straight line. So that's something you'd want to avoid in your composition. And a good way to correct that would be to take this first grouping of trees here and make some of them a bit taller so they go above the line that's coming across from the distant landmass. So in essence, you create a step up. And then do the same thing on the second grouping of trees, which is nearer to you in the picture. Just go a little taller with a few of those trees, and now you have a step up from the other grouping of trees. So rather than having that straight line going across, what you have is a step up and another step up. And that's much more interesting than just having a straight line go across, and it's much better composition. You don't want that straight line. It's a tangent. So that's by making that slight alteration in your drawing, you can improve your composition. So those are just a few examples of tangents. They can occur in many ways in a composition, but just be aware of them and how edges relate to one another and where intersections occur. You don't want to split things down the middle generally, and you don't want edges to meet right at the two shapes to meet right at the edges. Just have that awareness as you're laying it out, and don't be afraid to change your photograph to make those kind of adjustments to improve your composition. Once you learn to look for tangents, it'll just become second nature, and you'll make those small adjustments as you're doing your drawing. I hope you found this tip on composition helpful. If you do have questions, you can reach me by emailing me at contactrsurwitzart@gmail.com. If you want to see more videos, you can check out my playlist by searching on YouTube for Rick Surwitz Watercolor. You can follow me on Facebook. You can also follow the group of subscribers and friends on Rick Surwitz Watercolor Friends and Subscribers, a group Facebook page. And if you enjoy this, don't forget to like it, share it, and comment. Thanks for watching.